maybe I can continue myself. So what I want to highlight about this book is that this author really handles the issues which are profound to understand human nature and the nature of human behavior in today's escalated world. And she drives a very prominent and important attention to finding and defining oneself in this resilient existence of today's world. And I want to draw your attention to a number of poems here, and let me read one of them or some of them, and also I'll be pleased to ask some questions. For example, the poem Bitter Thoughts, this is one of my favorites because this places any human of the world, I think, in the pressure of today's uncertainty and caused by war and some external forces which are driven by dictators and by the people in power, and which take the happiness of everyone. And so my first question to Armenida, so before I read this poem, is how she defines or how can she define the power of poetry? Because we do know that, for example, Brodsky highlighted the significance and importance of poetry, and it was something, the power which could just free people from obedience and go against and fight against some regimes who do lots of bad things. And this poem, you have here that we are lucky, very lucky, my love, very lucky not to be born in Syria. They burned it to the ground, and not in Iran either. Love is forbidden in that country. How would I meet you there? So this poem is about how powers and injustice in this world, can take the happiness from ordinary people, and how life can become so difficult and something that it's not tolerable. So once again, I want to ask her what you think about the power of the word and what poets should do, especially in today's world. So to fight against war or to stand up, things like this.
Good evening, everybody. First, thank you for coming here despite the freezing cold and the rush traffic hours. It's truly an honor to be here, and at times I think that it's not real, that I must be dreaming all this. But let's get back to the professor's question. The role of the poet. A lot of times we think that everything we do doesn't really hold much, that all these catastrophic events are happening regardless what we're saying, regardless what we're writing about. But the duty of a writer is not just to be content to have a God-given talent to write about beautiful things. And I take it personally as a challenge and as an obligation to use my abilities to actually, for one thing, portrays today's society, the problems that it represents, and perhaps to knock on people's heart for the change that we all desire. So I'm using it to reach out, to make a difference for as much as it can make, maybe 0.1%. But if I can make that very small percentage in a lot of hearts, maybe something better will happen. And I do tend to believe in collective intelligence out there and collective compassion out there. So if we are actually, voicing out our concerns, maybe change does happen, even though it might not be visible. And, I cannot live my life sheltered into my own little happiness in my own little moment and not recognize what's happening in the larger scale of things. And this is why, every time I think, when I see something horrible happening in Ukraine or something horrible happening in Syria, that I think, oh my God, I'm really lucky, that I wasn't born there. Because in everyday's world, we complain about what we don't have, like, oh, I wish I had money, I wish I didn't have problem paying my mortgage or whatever, right? But then we forget the very essence of things. First of all, we're very privileged to be living, not to be in a war-torn country, zone conflict, right? And after you could recognize that, you start to see world a little bit different, and this is why I say we're very lucky not to be here, born in these countries. But I also do go a little bit deeper, and the poem continues with other verses like, we were born in a little country that is getting emptied and refilled with people like us, exiled. So here we are. Why am I in America? Why I'm not where I was born? In where I have my memories, I still have people that I love dearly. I'm here because they forced me to be here, because I had no future where I was. Yes, I'm very grateful that I do have a future here, that I do have a life here, but that doesn't exclude me from feeling and voicing out the concerns that still persist there, that my country is still being emptied and is being refilled with other people displaced like me, exiled like me. So, I don't think I need big words, but I just need the words from the heart, and this is what I've done.